ladies and gentlemen, to our last segment of the show. My name is Anthony and I am your host. Now remember to catch up with us on Twitter, and my handle is at Anthony Sebale, or you can catch up with SMART24 TV at SMART24 TV and get to follow also the hashtag financial markets and get to see some of the latest on these different topics of discussion, especially on the stock market. What are your sentiments as an investor? Where are you investing in this market? Of course, it's a bear market, but when the streets are bloody, that's the best time to go out and walk on them. That's according to Warren Buffett, a very well-known investor, renowned investor in the world. So you must be willing to make the move despite the hard times. And before we get into Nairobi trading, I want to remind you that the show is brought to you by Altex. And Altex East Africa is a private stock exchange now licensed by the Capital Markets Authority. And the exchange helps you now under their ZABU initiative to be able to buy or sell treasury bonds. And for starters, treasury bonds are transferable debt instruments, either to government, or rather, actually it's to government mainly, because corporate bonds do have the private sector coming in, but mainly this is transferable debt to government. And this is a way government raises money, and this is through domestic borrowing. Instead of us going for more commercial and expensive loans abroad, government opts to seek them funds from its locals, and this is through treasury bonds. Now, Altex found a gap between people in the private sector as well as the government and the Bank of Uganda. And to be able to fill this gap, Altex tried to bring technology into play and make the markets more accessible. Now with their ZABU initiative, you can simply dial *292# and you are straight away into the market. And that market is not only for Uganda, but also across East Africa, in Tanzania and Kenya as well. They're of course planning to expand into other countries, but mainly for now, Uganda, Kenya and Tanzania. And this is not only for those who want to buy, but for those who want to sell. And just to give you a brief on treasury bonds. Treasury bonds, like I said, is transferable debt, but it comes at a cost. Of course, government has to bear the burden of being able to take away the public's money for a specific period of time, and this is the interest. And this interest comes at an interest rate predetermined by the Bank of Uganda or the central bank of any particular state, in this case either Kenya or Tanzania or Uganda. Now when this rate, of course, just to give you a background before Altex getting into this business of being able to access these markets, you could be able to go to Bank of Uganda for the auctions. Just recently, they had about 289 billion on their treasury bill auction, and they do invite bidders. And who is a bidder? A bidder is a person who is seeking to lend to government at a particular interest rate that he feels should be appreciated by the Bank of Uganda. And of course you submit in your request or your bid, and of course we do have competitive and non-competitive bids. For the non-competitive bids, really it's those people with between 100,000 and 100,100,000. So anywhere in between there, you will not be a competitive bidder, you will be a non-competitive bidder, and that means that your position basically is to take whatever interest the bank comes up with. But then for competitive bidders, they do put in their interest rates, and these are people investing 100 million, 100,000 or more. And that's something you really need to understand. And of course, we have two market segments, the primary market segment and the secondary market segment, where in the primary market segment, you're interfacing directly with Bank of Uganda. So the instruments are being issued for the very first time. And this means that people are coming to buy the bonds for the very first time that they're being issued. And this is, of course, directly through the Bank of Uganda, through, however, primary dealers, which are banks, 8 of them now in Uganda, UBA, Bank of Baroda, you have ABSA, you have Standard Chartered, Centenary Bank, Stanbic Bank, and the like. These will help you to deal in dealership. Of course, that is through the central bank. Now, we do have another market, and this is where Altex really comes in handy, and this is the secondary market. So after the first primary market, the first people have bought out these shares and they possess the instruments, they can trade those instruments on the secondary market. Remember, especially treasury bonds are long-term financial instruments. In other words, you're lending government for more than 2 years. You're lending government for 5 years, for 10 years, for 15 years, 20 years. In Kenya, you can even go as much as 30 years now. So that's definitely a very long time. And what if you need the money before that time expires? This is why they brought into play the secondary market. And so Altex comes in to help you on this secondary market trading. The secondary market trading has different interest rates from the primary markets trading. And these interest rates are predetermined, especially on the yield curve. There's a yield curve for all the different bonds, the 10-year, the 4-year, and so on and so forth, which is of course determined by different factors, including the central bank rate, including the exchange rate, and so on and so forth. So this yield, of course, is the interest rate that the buyers are able to earn from their investments. So if it's a 10% interest rate and you're investing 100 million, and this 10% interest rate is per annum, it means you will get 10 million every year, and that will come in 2 shares. The first 6 months you get the first 5 million, and in the next 6 months, so long as you're holding the instrument, you will get the next 5 million. That's the 10% interest. So Altex is cutting out all that drama and helping you access these markets via your mobile phone, and being able to also purchase them with money off of your mobile money account. This is by simply dialing *292#. And when you do that, they will send you a code, and then you will be able to get verification and of course transfer the money from your mobile money account. Altex is regulated by the Capital Markets Authority, and you can check them out at their website at altex.com for more information. Away from that, getting to Nairobi Stock Exchange, it had, of course, a similar day here like the Uganda Stock Exchange, and things were not pretty well. In aggregate, we still had 46 Nairobi Securities Exchange listed companies participate in the trading. The day ended with 25 gainers and 16 losers on the exchange. Now, Kakuzi came back as a big gainer here for the day. Of course, Kakuzi is taking chance of whatever is happening in the market, and many other small cap companies here at the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Kakuzi appreciated by 10% on the second day of trading, with a total share price of 418.0 Kenyan shillings, closing the day there on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Nairobi Business Ventures appreciated 8.61%. Umeme continue to put up a very wonderful fight there at the Nairobi Securities Exchange in the 3rd place amongst the top gainers at a 5.97% gain. Samia Africa also gained about, Samia Africa gained about 5.74% there on the exchange. Crown Paints Kenya was another person who participated, but unfortunately ended their day in a loss. Nairobi is really turning out well for small cap companies, especially most recently. You're even looking at the biggest movers here. Yesterday it was Kabaseed, and then you're seeing other companies as well coming in to add on to that. And so there is still a lot really to look forward to at the Nairobi Stock Exchange here for us. Now, looking at also the bottom losers, we did have Express Kenya lose about 6.67% on their second day of trading, as well as Ever Ready East Africa Investments at a 5.33% share price depreciation. You must really love figures when you're talking about financial markets, how really companies can gain 5% and the next day they have a 10% gain, and the next, it's really quite fascinating. Of course, it comes sometimes with a little bit of stress because some people are making losses somewhere, but still that's the way we learn, and that's the way we get to move on in the markets. Now, Nairobi Stock Exchange still had a fairly good or well-balanced performance, especially from the small caps. And looking at the biggest movers, we had Equity Group Holdings lead the top movers this time round, not Safaricom, at about 4.38 million traded shares in the second day of trading. Safaricom followed suit at 2.8 million shares, and the KCB Group led at about 1.6 million shares as well. And East African Breweries Limited had about 1.17 million shares that were transacted on the second day of trading. Regarding the performance of the All-Share Index, which is a benchmark performance indicator at Nairobi Stock Exchange, it paired by about 0.11 points, closing at exactly 127.23 points, and representing a one-week loss of 0.25% and a four-week loss of 1.07% loss, and overall year-to-date loss of about 23.57% that was shed off. Other remarkable indexes like the NSE 20, the NSE 25 appreciated on the contrary, and the NSE 20 went up 0.1% and the NSE 25 went up 0.45%. These, of course, track the top companies, the NSE 20 in particular, the top 20 companies, and the NSE 25, the top 25 companies. In Kenya, we do have an exchange-traded fund, and when you look at the way the exchange-traded fund really works, it's quite different from the way other investments or for example, buying stocks really works. And for example, you can invest in different stocks at the same time without having to choose individual companies and choosing out which company you're going to invest in, which company are you dropping, and this makes quite a good deal for people who are risk averse, and it helps you to kind of diversify your portfolio, which is very key to successful investments, no matter if it's in financial markets or any other business. And so the exchange traded fund in Kenya is important, and we track really the exchange traded fund based on indexes, the NSE 20 and the NSE 25. Now, when you're looking at the top gainers, like we said, we had Kakuzi, and I want to just have a look at Kakuzi here and get to see how much they did move the market. Remember, the small caps really are high return but high risk. So don't be surprised if just 2 weeks from now, or even 1 day from now, tomorrow, or even in today's trades, Kakuzi turns out to be, coming at the bottom of the tables. It's very, very possible, and it is something you must expect if you're trading or dealing with small caps. They are quite risky, but also the return is quite high, if at all it actually does come to pass. So you must be taking note of that as well. Now, Kakuzi is engaged in the cultivation of tea. Tea growing in Kenya is a very lucrative business, and we have quite a number of companies on the Uganda Stock Exchange that are listed but still deal in coffee and tea. Now, this company deals in the growth, in the packaging and the sale of avocados, livestock farming, growing and the selling of pineapples, and forestry, as well as macadamia development. The company's products include tea, avocado, pineapple, macadamia orchards, livestock, and forestry. The tea estate is situated in the Nandi Hills, located about 330 kilometers northwest of Nairobi. Now, currently, the company holds about 819 billion Kenyan shillings worth of market capitalization, and this makes the company the 20th most valuable, which is a very good position. Of course, we have 65 companies, so a company coming in the 20th position in terms of value is not something we can take for granted. Yesterday, they did have a gain of 38 shillings. Now, 38 Kenyan shillings is about 900 shillings here in Uganda. Now, if you can quantify that, that is, let's first continue, and I'll show you a picture here of why this is important. Now, this was a 10% gain, and they were gaining to exactly 418.0 Ugandan shillings. Now, the volume they had was about, let's see, they did have a good volume here of about 100 shares, and a total of about 41,800 Kenyan shillings. That was their turnover. Now, to put this in perspective, if somebody, for example, you look at 38 shillings, and we're saying this is close to 900 Ugandan shillings. And so let's assume you sold these 100 shares and had bought the shares when the share price was below 418, to be specific, 38 shillings below. So it means that you're going to make 900 times 100. That is 90,000 in a single day of trading. Of course, you might not see this as significant, but it gets more significant with numbers. So it's something you must look into, and this is one way people make money. But of course, this is for, of course, people who have spent some time in the markets, and if you're not comfortable with this, if you're risk averse and want to retain your money, it's all right. But definitely you can also try out for yourself. Now, in its last day of trading, after gaining 10%, closing at 418, gaining from 380, the company still has, of course, some value attached to its name. Looking at their year-to-date performance, however, they have gained about 8.57% from 385 shillings to the current 418 shillings on their price, which is the 15th best on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. However, in terms of trading, they still have small volumes and currently ranked 56th in the last 3 months of trading via volumes. And they have traded about 13,300 shares and in 54 deals in the last 3 months, dating back in the 30th of August there. Now, that's exactly what we had for you from the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Remember, to be able to participate in this market really takes also a little bit of care and more research and getting help from the different financial advisors and the stock brokers. We do have stock brokers who have subsidiaries in Kenya who can help you access that stock, but you can also go online and get to find out how the stock brokers also in Kenya get to their customers there. Now, let's cross over to the US very quickly, as our time is fast spent. Now, there has been exceptionalism in the performance of the technology stocks on the US stock market. Now, for nearly a decade, the mega cap technology leaders such as Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Alphabet have dominated the US stock market. But those days appear to be over, according to strategists at Goldman Sachs. Now, David Costin, the bank's chief US equity strategist, told reporters in a call on Monday that technology is less likely to outperform by a stronger magnitude than other S&P 500 components in the coming years, adding that the revenue growth gap between companies in the sector and others is expected to be substantially small. Tech companies on the US market have been hit hard, with many of them laying off workers at a very high rate. This includes Amazon and now Twitter joining as well, the group after Elon Musk took over. Many people have been fired, and this is the way the employers are saying they're cutting costs, but it's coming at a very hefty cost, especially now on the stock exchange. But in summary here, regarding the performance of the different indexes, the S&P 500, there was still a decline in the second day of trading, especially on the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq, which is the tech-heavy index of the US stocks. That's it, ladies and gentlemen, that we had for you today. Remember to save and invest, and catch us tomorrow, same time, same place. Bye for now. My name is Anthony.